Hey, welcome to POW's 2020 Candidate Showcase. My name is Julia McFadden. I'm one of the members of POW, which is Progressive Oregon Women. We're going to start today. We've got a wonderful showcase for you of the candidates that POW has endorsed, and give you a little bit of background about POW. POW stands for Progressive Oregon Women. We are a coalition that was started by three powerful groups with one shared vision. We were started by members from the Oregon Women's March, Indivisible, and Unitarian Universalist Fellowship Social Justice Committee. We are working together to elect progressive women in Southern Oregon. POW offers tools, training, and support to progressive women, what they need basically to take on leadership roles from school board to city council and state legislature. We've done this in part by strong alliances with dynamic groups such as Emerge Oregon and Oregon Women's Campaign School. So we offer candidate training and campaign staff training, as well as offering community education about gender bias. So we are proud to have graduated 9 women from our first training with our education partner Emerge, and 5 of them are currently running for office in Oregon this November. On your ballots right now, and we couldn't be more proud to showcase them for you here today. Each woman has been vetted for progressive values before entering the training, and they've completed the endorsement questionnaire based on POW's We Believe statement, which are posted on our website. So today we're here to let you meet those candidates. Since ballots were mailed out, we know many of you will have them already. And we also know hearing directly from a candidate can be the most effective means for getting to know how you want to vote. We believe you're going to be as proud of these women as we are. So just a few logistics. What you're going to hear today is an introduction from each candidate. You're going to hear their answers to some questions that we believe are relevant to this election cycle. And then each woman will have an opportunity to give you their closing remarks. There will be time for a quick survey also to help POW better deliver services to you as voters and also to our candidates. So in order to ensure that all candidates have an opportunity to speak, we plan the event around 90-second responses. You may hear a bell or see a piece of paper come up. That's just a friendly tip to the speaker that they'll have 30 seconds left. And this allows them to be courteous to the next speaker to make sure everyone has a chance to answer. And we will be rotating who answers first. So without further ado, let me introduce to you POW's 2020 candidate slate. We have Mary Middleton, who is running for state representative in House District 4. We have Terrie Martin running for Jackson County Commissioner. We have Gina DuQuenne for Ashland City Council Seat 5, Paula Hyatt for Ashland City Council Seat 1, and Sarah Spansail for Medford City Council Ward 1. And we're gonna go ahead and get started here with Mary Middleton for introduction. Mary, you wanna take it away?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm running for Oregon State Representative, and that's in House District 4. So that district is part of Josephine County and Jackson County, runs between the communities of Grants Pass and Medford. It doesn't include either one of those. It includes the small communities in between there. It sort of hugs the I-5 corridor and includes Rogue River, Gold Hill, Center Point, Eagle Point, White City, and Weimar. And the reason that I ran for office, well, a couple of things, but I have seen local representatives run unopposed, and I just don't think that's democracy happening at its best. And I've also watched the current incumbent kind of ignore literally ignore the will of the people with regards to protecting our family farms and the initiative to ban the growth of GE crops. I also am an advocate for education and for the working families. I'm a union member and go Union Strong. So many things that I want to bring to the table. I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I would be honored to have your vote.
Thank you, Mary. Hi, so Terrie.
Hi, I'm Terrie Martin. I'm running for Jackson County Commissioner. I've lived in Jackson County for 50 years. And during that time, I've experienced it as a student, as a teacher at SOU for 25 years, as a small business owner, as well as a reporter for the Mail Tribune. And I've watched county politics for my entire life. And I've always felt like there was a place for me in there somewhere in terms of doing more public service and standing up for the people in Jackson County who I think aren't being represented. I think we've had a Republican commission for about 10 years. We haven't had a Democrat on the board in that time. And I feel like there are a lot of voices out there that just aren't being heard. So that's why I've stepped up this time, and I'm looking forward to your questions.
Sarah, you want to go ahead and go next?
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Sarah Spansail, running for Medford City Council's Ward 1. Just a little bit about myself. I was born in Medford. I've lived all around the valley. As a child, I grew up with my loving adopted family on the outskirts of Medford. Attended the Phoenix Town School District, met my husband, Zach, while attending SOU. I have really diverse life experiences that help me relate to the people of the community here in Medford. When the time came for us to start our family, after having lived in Portland for a while to pursue more economic opportunities, we decided to start our family and came back here to the Rogue Valley. Despite struggling again to find good jobs here in the Valley, Zach eventually got an opportunity to join an electrician's apprenticeship program. And we consider ours, now that he's a journeyman electrician here in the Valley, a success story. I'm a mother. I have 2 young sons who are 5 and 7. So we are one of the many families dealing with virtual schooling right now, which on top of a campaign has been very interesting, to say the least. And it's really important to me that they have opportunities to stay here in the Valley, you know, when they're grown and have economic job opportunities and everything else. When I started the family here, I really was able to get involved and start volunteering in my community because of my, I would say, privilege of being a stay-at-home mom at that point. Also let me do a lot more volunteering. I was able to stay overnight at the Ashland Winter Shelter, where I started to see immediate positive impacts on my community. And it showed me that we need better solutions for especially our most vulnerable. That community involvement has also led me to an appreciation of policymaking and legislation. As said by Julie, I am an alumna of the Emerge Oregon program, and also enrolled currently with the Land Use Leadership Initiative program as well. And I'm also an expert on efficiently leading meetings and making sure that no one's left out. I think Medford needs a candidate like me who can represent all the working families here. And since it's Progressive Oregon Women, also, I can't not say that we need some more women on the Medford City Council. So hopefully I'll have everyone's support here in Medford. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. We have Gina next.
Thank
Gina.
you so much. Okay, there we go. Thank you so much for creating this space so that we can all get together. It's great to see everyone's face again. A little bit about me. My name is Gina DuQuenne. I'm running for Ashland City Council, seat number 5. And I've been in Ashland now for almost 15 years. And part of the reason why I am running for Ashland City Council is I'm running for the people, because I believe in Ashland, and Ashland is resilient. And now's the time to reimagine Ashland. I believe that what I have to bring to City Council, once again, will be unique, kind of what Sarah touched on. And I would like to bring to Council my lived experiences, my tenacity, my honesty, my transparency. And I am a very good collaborator, a community worker. I've been with the Housing and Human Services Commission for 7 years. And being on the commission really opened my eyes up to some of the things that were needed here in Ashland that people don't see on the surface, and wanting to have equity in Ashland, and being a businesswoman that I am, looking at both sides of it to be able to see the thriving businesses that are so rich and important to us that keep us moving forward. I'd like to be able to see that sustainable as we move forward. Then bringing my qualities to being from the business world to also being a big advocate for volunteering, working with our unhoused community and our not so and a marginalized community, even in the LGBTQ community. And I would love to be able to be a part of the city council and get rid of the divides, bring us together, look at our budgets, look at the priorities, and be able to set tangible goals so we can move forward and be thriving and sustainable here in Ashland and in the Rogue Valley. So thank you so much. I appreciate this opportunity. And with your vote and your support, we can have a thriving, equitable, sustainable Ashland. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Right. Well, our first question is that, we have all lived through some traumatic times this year with COVID, and now with the catastrophic fires in the Rogue Valley. What are your priorities for recovery, and what will you do through your specific elected position? We're going to go ahead and start with Paula, and if you all just want to go in order right after the person in front of you, that will work well. Paula, could you start off with helping us with that answer?
Sure, thank you. With regard to, I take this question in two parts. With regard to the fire, I feel that there are essential aspects that we need to continue, and that would be our Ashland Fire Resilience Program up in our watershed, and also our FireWise program. That FireWise program is incredibly important to the community of Ashland, and I think it could also be shared outside of Ashland. It is a wonderful resource that helps us plan and have our set resources so that if we do have difficulties like we did back on September 8th, our residents have the tools and are prepared and planned to evacuate accordingly. I also want to see us improve our work on the county level, specifically around weed abatement and defensible space. I think that is something we absolutely have to work with Ashland community level and Jackson County and our sister communities of Talent, Phoenix, and Medford. Additionally, I would say we have to focus on communication. Ashland in the past has had a communication position, but we do not currently. And that is something I think we definitely felt the lack of when we all experienced the fires. And I think we need to reevaluate that, especially within the context of how we communicate with residents, whether it be through Nixle or other programs. Nixle does work and it can work effectively, but I think we need to look at it, make sure we understand what Nixle is for and what it's not for, and then use it accordingly, and then build our other communication mechanisms for those things that are not emergency related. So that's in the fire side. Now with regard to economy, as everyone has seen, COVID has been incredibly challenging socially and economically. And then with the advent of the fire, it only compounds things. And I see Ashland's way forward in three ways. First, the near term. We need to leverage the core competency of tourism in our community. We need to refocus on our shoulder seasons and bolster fall and spring activities. We have many wonderful nonprofit organizations that can help us with this. Our mountain biking community, Klamath Bird Observatory, among many others, and work in that near term to help smooth out the revenue cycle on an annual basis. Then midterm, I would like to see us help grow our traded sector. We have wonderful traded sector businesses here in Ashland, and there are state programs that can help us help those businesses further grow. When you have a strong traded sector, and these are sectors that build products or provide services that are consumed outside of the Valley, and then the revenues come back into Ashland and the Valley and are predominantly spent here. When you strengthen that traded sector, you also help your local sector. They're very symbiotic. So in focusing on building and growing traded sector business, we also help our local sector. So by local, think healthcare, haircuts, and the like. These things work together with our traded sector partners and only further grow our community's economy. And then finally, long-term, I would like to see us welcome our business services that work from home. COVID has taught us so much with regard to what we can do from our own desk or our own kitchen counter, depending on where you like to work. And I feel that we need to welcome folks that do perform their work tasks from a home office. And I think they would have the benefit of enjoying and living in Ashland, and Ashland would have the benefit of the diversification that they bring with them in terms of their profession. So that's how I look at both the instance of the fire and the instance of COVID, and how we would work economically and socially to recover.
It's fantastic. And I'm just going to pop in here real quick and say, Paula, I think your grace and flow and ease with being able to handle this was amazing. A great answer to your question, but also because I didn't introduce you for your introduction.
No.
And you immediately answered with great poise, and we're right there with the answer to that question. So would you be able to give us an introduction to you, and then we'll go to Mary for her answer.
Sure. My name is Paula Hyatt. I'm running for Ashland City Council, seat 1. My professional background is in financial analysis and project management, and also business development. My formal education, I received my bachelor's in business administration from George Washington University, and then completed my master's work for my MBA at SUNY Albany. I've worked in the industries of banking, defense, and healthcare for Lehman Brothers, Lockheed Martin, and Express Scripts, respectively. But what I most enjoy is working in service to our community. And I have had the privilege to work on our Citizens Budget Committee, most recently as the 2019 chair, in our Economic, Cultural, Tourism, and Sustainability Grants Committee for the last 3 years. And one thing that I also enjoy doing, because my daughter can do it with me, is being a neighborhood coordinator for our Ashland Food Project. Those projects are very important to me, and I think it's important to be a part of your community and leverage your skills and work where you best fit. And I would say what brought me to this race is in combination. While working on the budget committee, it's clear that Ashland has many economic challenges, but it's not just our city. It's our businesses, it's our families, it's our individual workers. And I would like to share my skills and experiences and help plan solutions that will successfully take Ashland into the future.
Thank you, Paula.
Thanks.
Thank you. And Mary, just as a refresher, the question is, we've all lived through some traumatic times this year with COVID and now the catastrophic fires in the Rogue Valley. What are your priorities for recovery, and what will you do through your specific elected position?
Thank you, Julia. So 2020 has been a year of challenges for sure. That is such an understatement, right? We've had the pandemic hit us so hard, and that created an economic crisis. We've had the social crisis of the Black Lives Matter movement, and all of the challenges that comes from, facing systemic racism and calling it out for what it is. And then we got the huge wildfires that took off like wild and ravaged through our communities. So some would call those climate fires, right? They took off and were able to burn so intensely and so quickly, partly because of the climate crisis that we are in. And so I believe in science. I'm a mathematician and a teacher, an educator, and I will prioritize our response to the climate crisis as part of my in the state legislature. Last year, we saw the Republican representatives and cohorts in the legislature walk out and refuse to handle the business at hand. And then they not only stopped the cap and trade bill, which I am for, they inhibited many legislative offerings on the table when my opponent walked out in the May session. And I will not walk away when I'm getting paid to do a job and represent the people. I will absolutely stay there, collaborate, and negotiate. to represent the people. And I believe that much of this, the way that we handle firefighting and wildfires, I believe that we have the knowledge, but that we have to communicate and collaborate in order to come up with solutions that are better protection for our natural resources. Okay, I'm running out of time. As far as
Thank
COVID,
you.
now we need to, health is a priority, and we need to make sure that everybody has access to healthcare and that we are protecting everybody. As an educator, I have strengthened my skills with online teaching, and I've helped others do that as well. And I will continue to advocate for everybody staying safe. And we expect the numbers to continue to rise over the winter. And so we need to make health a priority. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And just as a quick reminder to all of our participants, if you can make sure that you can see Colleen, who's our timekeeper, in your screen, she'll be able to help us with that too. Okay, so Terrie Martin.
All right, thanks. Both COVID and the fire are pretty personal to me. The first person in Southern Oregon to die from COVID was a friend of mine's husband. And so that was back in the first part of April, which made that illness and that virus very real to me as I supported her through that. And then in the fire on September 8th, I lost my family business. And so both of those things have been pretty much part of my life and part of the fabric of what I've been trying to do in this campaign ever since. I feel like there's so much work to do that you can't do it in 90 seconds. I feel you, Mary. I think the county is going to have to look, there's several layers of things they're going to have to do to recover from these things. One, of course, is economic. And they have a rainy day fund that they can dig into, which is a good thing to have so that they can begin trying to prop up some of the businesses that are suffering so badly. We have, I think it's around 47% of the people in Jackson County who are self-employed. So there's that. And then we have the psychological impact of both COVID and the fires, where people are traumatized. We're going to have to bolster mental health services. And then beyond that, we're going to have to look at housing. Housing is the biggest issue right now for everyone. We lost 2,500 families, many of them in our workforce in the Valley, and we're going to have to find a way to keep them here temporarily and rebuild so they have a place to go.
Sarah, go ahead.
All right. And so, yeah, the fires and COVID this year, 2020 has been insane. And especially during the times of crisis like this, I think cities are responsible for stepping up to ensure that our community continues to thrive. Finding ways to support our small business is integral to making that happen. We will find ways to support those small businesses through transparency, cooperation, and outreach that involves everyone in the Valley. I support the continuation of the Small Business Assistance Grant Program, and that program needs to continue with frequent assessments to continue to assess the needs in our community. And the city should prioritize reaching out to small businesses who, particularly those owned by minorities, to find out what resources they need to keep the lights on and the doors open, and continue to create jobs here for folks who are struggling with unemployment as well. So I think the city can connect businesses to other organizations that can help. Regarding the emergency response, it's become clear that the county and all cities in the Rogue Valley have a lot of work to do to improve our emergency response system. The notification process and evacuation plans for our residents were clearly lacking. We have heard too many stories of our neighbors' accounts of harrowing experiences with evacuation and staying safe, little to no notice of the fire, and a struggle to find a safe route to evacuate. Most of the information that I was able to see while that was all happening on the 8th was through Twitter accounts and news stations on social media who translated their alerts from listening closely to the police scanner, not from a county emergency or alert service. So everyone, you know, we have a lot of work to do. I've been endorsed by the Medford firefighters. I will be discussing with them what their best ideas are on how to keep us safe in the future. And a big part of that, I think, will be increasing the staffing as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Gina.
So I heard some great things ahead of me said, and something that I think is so important is that we know that fire season is going to come again. And when it comes again, I want us to be better prepared for it. I believe that the safety of the people is so important, and we do not have an evacuation plan. And I feel that is a criteria that needs to be, in my opinion, it's a critical thing that needs to happen. And I feel like the sooner that we start working on the evacuation plans, the better. And it's not just for Ashland, but for all of our neighboring cities. That's one thing that we saw, how something can start one place and impact Jackson County. So I believe that the evacuation plan needs to be put in place. I do believe our emergency alerts need to be at full capacity at all times, because a lot of people weren't alerted, and that puts so many people in jeopardy. And if that can be tested throughout the year, I think it would be awesome. Just like when we were in school and we used to have a fire drill, it would be nice to have an emergency alert drill so that everyone knows that we're at full capacity and they're safe. And having the FireWise in our communities and the education, I feel is so important, so everybody knows their part and what we can do to keep our community safe. Having an evacuation goes back to educating the communities so that everybody knows every way and every direction out so that everyone is safe. I applaud Loma Katsi and ODF and the people who are out there year round. Taking care of our forestry is so important, and it's important that we do what we can do here at home. I mean, here in our backyards, to make sure that we're safe, our community's safe. Just to echo what Sarah said, I applaud you, Sarah, for that endorsement. I too was endorsed by the fire department, great discussions with them. And I feel that it's important for city council to not cut that budget and to support our fire departments because they keep us safe.
Thank you. Okay, Gina, we have you starting with our second question. And that is, we've just discussed COVID and our fire response. What other issues do you see as being paramount to the position you're running for? And what are you planning to do about those issues?
Paramount. Some of the things that I see as we are doing our best to recuperate and being in elected office, I would definitely want to review our budget and prioritize our budget and set tangible goals. I feel it's very important to be able to put, I live by the list. That's who I am. I'm a list maker. It's there. I prioritize my list. I get it done. And it's just that simple, but then it's not just that simple. However, it can be done. So prioritizing our budget and setting the goals, I feel is important. Taking care of our unhoused community, I feel is important because we're still in a COVID world and winter is coming. So how do we keep people safe and healthy and housed as we get through this COVID season? And I feel like it is a season. I'm hopeful that we'll get a vaccination and that will go away. Something that I mentioned earlier is preparing ourselves for next fire season, because it's going to come. I'd like to see us doing that now. And there are ways to set the evacuation goals and make that happen. So when I look at also taking care of our small businesses and how can we create living wage jobs as we move forward, and just diversifying our economy. something that was touched on earlier was tourism. And that's my background, group in tourism. And to be able to diversify that and have it all year round so as to better help our small businesses so that they can recoup from all of this 2020 madness that's been happening. So my vision is to prioritize the budget, set goals, support our small businesses, take care of our unhoused as we are going through this COVID-19 situation, part 2, and get in living wage jobs by diversifying our economy and inviting other businesses that will have a soft impact into Ashland.
All right. Thank you, Gina.
Thank you.
Paula?
Sorry, still learning technology. Lifelong learner, right? I see our Ashland's top 3 issues as being around budget sustainability and prioritization that is consistent with the values of Ashland's community. That's number 1. Number 2 would be housing accessibility and affordability. Third is our key hires. And by that, I mean our future city manager and our next public works director, among the many others that keep Ashland's municipal government going. And I see these 3 issues under an umbrella. And that umbrella includes the social and economic recovery from COVID and also climate change, specifically wildfire recovery and preparation. With regard to budget issues, I know I spoke to those in my first answer and how I would look to diversify our economy. With regard to housing, affordability, and accessibility, I want to see us continue our block grants. These are funds that come from HUD, and they allow us to help transition people into sustained housing. And they also help us partner people so that they have stable jobs and living wage jobs. I also want to see us continue our housing trust fund, which has a dedicated revenue stream. And I think that those 2 things together need to go forward with us. And then I would also say that as a municipality, we need to strengthen our partnership with the community organizations such as Access, Aura, and many others that are proficient in providing the suite of services that can wrap around people. And I think that way we can help with regards to affordability and accessibility.
Thank you so much, Paula. Mary?
So issues that are paramount, I think the biggest issue that's going to be faced in state legislature is the budget. And that's been mentioned already in all of our communities and throughout the nation. We have an economic crisis. We need to look for ways to help small businesses and to continue funding for education and healthcare. Those are the things that are going to be paramount. I love some of the housing ideas that are coming up in some of the small communities in this region and protecting affordable housing. And I think that at the state level, when we had the allowances for if somebody is unable to work because of the pandemic, then they shouldn't lose their house as a result of that. So some of those sort of larger budget issues, I'll be looking to support and looking to look for new avenues of supporting businesses to bring more investment in our small communities and throughout the state. There are ways to attract more businesses. The other thing that was highlighted in the pandemic was that a lot of people were collecting unemployment and the additional supplemental employment checks that were instigated nationwide. And many of those people were getting paid more to stay home. And that doesn't mean that we were paying them too much. That means that we need to raise the living wage. And so I will be looking for ways to advocate for higher living wages and protecting working folks. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrie?
All right, paramount issues. Gosh, I've got a long list. I'll just try to zip through them. Number one, I think that an investigation to follow up on the alert system for Jackson County has got to be crucial. It's got to be done now. It's got to be done soon. And my things are still packed by the door because it feels like there is still an urgent response to what happened with the fires. So that's going to have to be first. Second of all, we're going to have to deal with the jail and the fact that they feel that they are outgrowing it, and we've got to look at ways to reduce the population there. We may need to figure out the percentage of people that are brought in to the jail that haven't actually done crimes. And so that leads me to number three, which is homelessness, because that is top everybody's list right now, especially after COVID, when we had so many people camped on the Greenway, and then those people now displaced from the Greenway and into downtown Medford. So we're going to have to deal with homelessness, and we're going to have to deal with our response to that, helping those people, as well as creating a crisis mobile response team that can respond to things like mental health crises, so that we don't tie up our law enforcement officers on that. Fourth is land use, and that includes open space between cities, forest, fields, and farms, and where we develop and where we allow development to go. And that also includes hemp production, which is a huge, huge industry in this valley that nobody's talking about right now, that needs to come to the forefront in terms of recognition, and the fact that it's bringing not only a lot of money to this valley and to small landowners, but to jobs as well as that. And then finally, I think recognition of Southern Oregon and state politics is incredibly important, because we've had 3 Republican commissioners. I'm not sure how well they played with the legislature and what's happening up in Portland and Salem right now. So I tend to think that having a Democratic commissioner on the board would make a big difference.
Thank you, Terrie. Sarah Spansail.
Thank you. So we're talking about issues other than COVID and the fires. With both of those things happening prior to those events, we had a 1% or less vacancy rate in our valley. So now that has happened, I've heard it's effectively 0 or below 0. So developing a plan to eliminate homelessness and making sure everyone in the Rogue Valley has a roof over their heads is one of the most important reasons I'm running for Medford City Council. 20% of Medford's 79,000 residents live at or below the poverty level, and that statistic was from 2017. So prior to the pandemic and our regional destruction here, so I would expect those numbers to go up. Many of our people living in poverty are essential workers who are working 12 to 18-hour days at minimum wage jobs. And that poverty rate is also 6% higher than the national average. So 1 in 5 of our neighbors in Medford are living in poverty. Nationally, we know that most Americans would not be able to afford to pay an unexpected $600 expense. So when we think about Medford's homeless crisis, I think we have to consider how this relates to other critical issues in our community. Now that hundreds of our neighbors' homes have been lost and the potential for more fires is on the way this year, next year, we have to think about how to protect our residents from becoming homeless. And we have to understand how that crisis came to be and make compassionate interventions as we work to fix it. We need to be looking at successful models wherever they can be found, because the city of Medford has succeeded in improving lives through transitional housing models like Hope Village, the temporary urban campground. We should continue to expand and build on those programs. We can provide jobs by building new structures with more capacity. Adding more beds is also essential right now, and looking to successes in other cities similar to ours needs to be where we continue and how we can figure out where to go until everyone in Medford has a roof over their head. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. And Sarah, you actually will start off with the next question. You're endorsed by POW, which stands for Progressive Oregon Women. How do you see your progressive values influencing the key issues in your elected position?
So I think we are really fortunate in Medford to have an incumbent like Kay Brooks, who, as the only woman on the council, has consistently championed the rights and needs of our community. But the Medford City Council has yet to be described as progressive. The progressive value that I would most want to influence is representative government and ensuring that everyone in our community is represented and heard. Our processes need to be inclusive and transparent. Without allowing involvement for everyone to participate, I don't know how we can expect to have a community or policies that work for everyone. We will need to go the extra mile with outreach to make sure that all of those people's voices are heard. And in Ward 1, where I live, I think one of the biggest issues in our ward was the rezoning of the land at Springbrook and McAndrews, where they plan on building a Circle K convenience store, gas station, and car wash that is going to be open 24/7 in an otherwise residential neighborhood. I don't believe that our neighborhood was properly engaged early enough in the process by the city council or city commissions to allow proper public input and involvement in that. So if elected, one of the things that I will do is make sure that those things don't slip through the cracks and that our neighborhoods are adequately and in a timely way advised of what plans are happening in our community and in our neighborhoods.
Thank you. Gina.
So I'm going to take that question into two parts. And how can I most influence something that's happening right now? And Ashlyn, I heard many of the panelists mention homelessness. And something that is near and dear to my heart is making sure that everyone has a roof over their heads. And being that I've been on the Housing and Human Services Commission for the past 7 years and working diligently with this commission of people that are amazing people. And we have vetted so many things and so many different possibilities. And now we have a huge opportunity just north on the north side of Ashland, the Hardesty property, which is a wonderful opportunity to house residents in our community that don't have a house. It's a wonderful opportunity. I look forward to being on council so that we can make that happen. It's 21 acres, perfect location, and it can definitely happen. We have buy-in from La Clinica, United Way, Rogue Retreat was there, Pam Marsh has seen it. So wonderful opportunities. Personally, something that I would like to influence is I would like to be able to open the door to a community, the BIPOC community, to see more people who look like me in public office and in local office here, or shall I say in elected office and in local office here in Ashland. The BIPOC community is Black, Indigenous people of color. I would love to see us in more elected positions, and we need to be seen. So I look forward to that possibility.
Thank you, Gina. Paula.
First, I would say that I feel all of our citizens should have the ability to thrive in a community free of bias. And by that, I see our city's role in providing hiring opportunities that have been reviewed, and we ensure that all people that have the right qualifications are in fact able to apply for the jobs, especially the key hires that I mentioned earlier. So our processes need to be open, and they need to be inclusive, and they need to be equitable. Similarly, equal pay for equal work. If we are running our municipality, we want to make sure that our employees are receiving the pay that is commensurate with the work they do, not the attributes of them as an individual, but rather their skill sets. And then I would also say public policy decisions. Those decisions have to be through a lens that is free of bias. And that is something that can be and needs to be done on our city council level. Second, I would say access. Just as we have been speaking out so much about this afternoon, is access to housing, access to the services that we need to live fulfilled lives. And that also applies to folks who are on fixed income. They have worked their whole lives, they have retired, and they deserve a retirement that is one of dignity and respect, and that they can provide for themselves. And Ashland is a big community of retirees. So it's important to me that the affordability of our community is supportive of all of our populations, our retirees, our young families, and the like. We want to ensure that all of our citizens are cared for and that nobody falls to the margin. And then finally, I would say science. We have been living climate change, and I feel that that is something that will not go away. and we must meet it head on. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, Mary.
Thank you, Julia. It's a hard question to answer in 90 seconds, but I'm going to do my best. A lot of things have been mentioned. Representative government, absolutely. Transparency in what we're doing. Collaboration. That's one of the things that I love to do, collaborate and find other ways to look at things. And access to education. I'm an educator. I believe in access to education. I believe in it in the community college that I work for. And I'm also serve on the board with Southern Oregon Education Service District. And that organization is all about providing access to education for everyone. And it's been quite challenging to meet that goal during COVID. Remote learning with students with disabilities is much more challenging than the face-to-face instruction. So advocating for that. And I mentioned it in my beginning, but regenerative farming and protecting our family farms is also a progressive value that I will push forward. And I know that I will be able to sponsor the bill that will allow Josephine County to enforce the genetically engineered plant ordinance that passed at the ballot in May of 2014. And for 6 years, we've watched our local representatives just ignore the will of the people. So I will take that to the floor. And that is a value that I will, protect our family farms, protect the integrity of our food and the food that we feed our children and our families. So that's one thing that I'll do. And that's part of the progressive values that I'll take to Salem. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary. Terrie Martin.
Hey, there's so many great ideas here. It's hard to follow that up. But to me, being progressive means putting people first. It's something that I did as a reporter at the Mail Tribune. It's that if you're going to be talking about a specific issue, you can go talk to the people that make those big decisions, but you're going to learn a whole lot more about it if you go to the people that are actually impacted by this. So I feel that no matter what decision was being made on the board, that I would ask myself, how is this decision going to affect working families? How is it going to affect seniors? How is it going to affect people that are living on the margins of society that have mental health, homeless, poverty problems? How is this decision going to impact the environment as well? I mean, because to me, that's the second part of this, is that we don't have a board right now that's actually taking climate change and the environmental damage that we're doing to our valley seriously. And even my opponent said the other day that, well, he thought that they would bring 4 or 5 people in and we can talk about ideas they have and find the ones that are most cost effective. I'm sorry, we don't have time to be cost effective if we don't fix the climate situation. There are no other situations, right? If we don't solve that problem, other problems are lost. So we've got to bring people to the forefront. We've got to make them first, but we've also got to give that important balance to climate as well as we go forward.
Thank you. We're moving on to our 4th question, and Terrie, you start us off this time. We're living in increasingly divided political times. Have you experienced this divide in your candidacy as a progressive woman? And how do you anticipate facing the divide if elected?
Well, okay. I have faced this divide. I worked in a Harley dealership and still continue to work in a Harley dealership, what little I have left of it for the past 29 years. And I've dealt with a lot of people that are on the other side of the spectrum and had some really deep conversations about, what is it like to be what people see is so far apart, right? And then what we do is we find common ground. We find that we want the same thing. Actually, we want the same end point. We're just looking at 2 different ways to get there. And so for me, it's been a challenge to actually tell my customers that I'm a Dem. I mean, I've had people that were voting in the primary and said, I'm looking for you on my ballot, but I can't find you. You're not on there anywhere. So I have to explain I'm a Dem, and then they kind of like cloud up and say, well, I didn't understand that about you. And I'm saying, why does that make you see me differently now? So there's some really good conversations to be had here. I even had a person on the phone a day or so ago who was asking me all these questions about the fire and what changes I wanted to make, and in terms of evacuation and alerts and all this. And then she said, my husband's elbowing me And he's saying, but she rides a Harley. What party is she from? I have to say, I'm a Dem. And they said, well, we just didn't put those two things together. And I said, that's great, because really and truly the board should not be partisan. It should be nonpartisan. And that's the way we should go forward, is that at this point, we're the last of 7 counties in the entire state that have a partisan board of commission, and we need to change that.
Thank you. Okay. Sorry about that. Little timer. Sarah?
Thank you. So having grown up in the Rogue Valley in a conservative family, there's always been a political divide that I've been aware of growing up. That divide has clearly deepened over the past several years. However, despite the divide, I've been able to have many constructive conversations, even regarding political issues, with many conservatives in my family and my community. All of us, regardless of our political affiliation, have the same needs and ultimately want the same thing: a healthy, safe, and functioning community. My ability to communicate with everyone equally and find common ground, as Terrie said, with those who don't share all of my same beliefs, is one of the reasons that I think I'm the best candidate for Medford City Council.
Thank you. Gina?
Seeing a political divide on who I am, it's very interesting, because when I go out and I meet with people and people know who I am, and they can see me or Google me or look on my website. So it's very interesting. People, they pretty much know that I am a Black American and here I come. And so something that I did have very interesting happen the other day. I'm on the phone and we're phone banking. This was about a week ago. We're phone banking and I'm talking to this man on the phone. We're having a great conversation. And then I said something or another and he goes, "You're Black." And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." And he was very surprised because he commented on what our conversation was, how I stand for and the way I think. And we were having this great conversation about climate change and affordable housing and living wages, and we were agreeing on everything. And then as soon as he found out I was Black, it was like, okay. And he was done with the conversation. And that was very surprising to me, because I haven't encountered that so face to face in a while. And that is something that, being a progressive woman and being able to cross that aisle and let people know, you know what, it's okay, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. When we can begin to look at our similarities and not our differences, we can grow together and we can come together and go far. And that is something that I really want to be out there and making that statement, because we are one race, the human race, not a red or a blue or a Dem or a Republican, whatever. And I'm grateful that this is nonpartisan. And I just look forward to being of service and having that conversation. Thanks. I'm sorry.
Thanks, Gina. Paula? Paula?
Running for office in Ashland, I find that the Ashland community is by and large very supportive of progressive values. So when I have received emails that are other than, it has taken me a moment. And I have always grown up being taught, don't ask why this is happening to you, ask what this is teaching you. So even though we do live in a very progressive community and a very open community that listens, we still do have to face these issues. And how do we do that? I think one of the wonderful things that came out of Emerge was, don't get triggered, get curious. Start asking the questions, get into the specifics, because what this does is this forces us to, or encourages us to, do our research, to engage people of other opinions so that we can come up with stronger solutions. Instead of continuing the cycle of debate, let's educate, let's take all of that in. And I would say so many times it comes back to, people want to be heard. So we need to facilitate that environment where folks can feel heard. And I think that our city governments are ideal for that. And I know though COVID doesn't allow it right now, I feel that faces and names and being together is so important, because more and more I see us moving to online, and online is where some of the really divisive comments do start to come up. And I don't see them as being constructive in our communities and in advancing our communities towards future success.
Thank you, Paula. Mary.
Thank you. Have I seen the divided political climate in Southern Oregon? Absolutely, I have. And I agree with so much of what's been said. People need to be heard, and there's so much common ground that we can always find. We can all, and we've all had the opportunity to just stick to our opinion, and anybody who doesn't believe this is just stupid, right? But that's not going to get you anywhere. That's going to get you stuck in the ground. And so I'm more proud of the fact that I've been part of bipartisan issues like the genetically engineered plant ordinance. That was a community-wide effort that was absolutely bipartisan. That was not a bunch of Democrats, that was not a bunch of Republicans. It was a bunch of community citizens getting together for this one issue. And in my work as an educator and a teacher, you can't ask the Democrats to sit on one side of the room and Republicans on the other. You got to talk to everybody. You got to invite all of those students to the table and hear what they have to, what they're concerned about, and what issues they're facing. And I have a history of being an advocate for more transparency and more collaboration. So that's what I will take to Salem. Thank you.
And Mary, we'll have you start with our next question as well. All right. What do you know about systemic racism in the Rogue Valley? And what will you do in your elected position to address racial inequality?
So systemic racism is real. It exists in many ways in our society. It is something to look at internally at your own bias. What bias do I have? What bias was I raised with? And I've been having courageous conversations with people of color and with people, white people too, about, you know, how do you see it in our society? And many folks, the people of color, tell me stories of, you know, being the one picked to be searched on the airplane when they're boarding the airplane, and none of their classmates. They're the one person of color. They're the one person that's picked. Being a young person, some students told me about being a young person in Grants Pass, and just, you know, hanging out in town and getting called out by the cops and pulled over and searched, and without cause. Those kinds of things are prevalent in Southern Oregon and throughout society. And we need to approach this very carefully and give voices to those who are hurting, and to open our minds to creative solutions that will address making it safer for everyone. So sorry, I'm out of time.
Thank you. Hey, Terrie?
Yeah, I think I learned a lot in the past year or so working with Already Too Indivisible. We've explored this issue a little bit with some of our general meetings. We had one earlier this year where we had law enforcement come on. Well, first we had one with people of color just guiding the discussion that told us that racism exists here in the Valley, and it's very clear to them. And we just let them talk for an hour and a half and talk about what their experiences were. And then after that, we had one with law enforcement to talk about, you know, how they're approaching it. And they seemed to agree to a fault that, you know, there wasn't systemic racism in the Valley. Or if they did, they didn't see it within their own law enforcement, which was shocking to all of us to some extent, because we felt that, you know, there was not acknowledgement of what's happening here in the Valley. Now, how do we fix it? I'm going to say I'm the last white woman that's going to put my hand up and say I have an answer for this and that I know how to fix it, because really the answer shouldn't come from me. It needs to come from our community, and it needs to be led by the people of color. So what we need to do is make sure they're involved in all of our decisions. They need to be involved in all of our discussions as we go forward for all of these issues, including everything from homelessness to affordable housing to law enforcement and jail and mental health issues. All of those things need to have people of color on the forefront. We need to make sure they're on our committees as we go forward in Jackson County, and we need to make sure that their voices are heard as much as possible. I feel we have a very small number of people of color in this valley, to be honest with you. When it comes to percentages, there are only so many leaders in that movement. Expecting them to be on all the committees and all the different groups in the valley is expecting a lot. So I think it's going to be on us as elected officials to go out into the community and talk to these people and find out what they need and what we can do to make it better. We can't wait for them to come to us.
Thank you. Sarah.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I think that racism is one of the Valley's ugliest and most pervasive problems that we have. Not only is it resulting in violence, it results in systemic barriers to public services for people not considered to be white. And as Terrie said, as a white woman in the Valley, I can't begin to understand what it feels like to go through my day expecting myself or my family to be verbally assaulted. That being said, also similar to some of Terrie's comments, that's not my job to say what those solutions are. And we, since George Floyd's death, have had several new organizations even coming up in the Valley. And with those groups, I think leading the way, and as long as we are continuing to do outreach, which I've already been lucky enough to talk to Gina about some of this, and for other organizations I work with, to get, the input from the community who's most affected by this. We need to establish crisis intervention assistance and training that centers around the experiences of Black and Brown people in our community. That being said, obviously I support Cahoots and have been, on the Real Solutions Coalition since it started, both through work with the Rogue Action Center as well as the local party. And so I believe that with programs like that, we will have fewer people of color being victimized by law enforcement or first responders. And when we prioritize healthcare availability for all in the Valley, everyone will have a better chance at equity. And yeah, but it's up to communicating with the impacted folks in our community to make sure that we are actually addressing their needs that they actually have, and they can communicate those to us.
Thank you, Sarah. Gina.
Yes, thank you. Something that is it real? It's real. It's real. It's alive in the Valley. And one way that I feel we can help to mitigate this is just right here. I believe in collaboration and communication. I am very big on that. And I believe that we need to educate ourselves. We need to teach our children American history, the real American history, and know that Black history is American history. To be able to have a conversation, and we have to have those conversations that make people feel uncomfortable. Since March, since George Floyd's death, so many things I've seen, groups of white people who are together and they're dismantling whiteness and there are all these different groups. I can't, but it's about 4 or 5 of them that I know of. And then there's a couple of groups of Black people who've gotten together also. Something that I would love to see is not only education, collaboration and communication. How do we collaborate and communicate? We come together. I would love to see commissions, BIPOC community on commissions and in committees and involved with where we live. And I like the idea of welcoming people of color, because so many times, can I go there? Am I welcomed? So I love what I've heard. I just would like to implement that as soon as possible, so that at the end of the day, we all live on this earth together. Thank you.
Thank you, Gina. Paula.
Clearly, I am a white woman who has benefited from privileges that I have not earned. And that is very apparent to me as the conversation since March and even before has unfolded. I feel it is my role to open that space, to make sure that I am supportive of those who are truly at the fore and understand the best next steps. And by that, leaving that space open, being welcoming to the communication, inviting folks, persons of color to the table so that we do have these conversations and that they are led by those who have had these experiences. This can't be allowed to persist. And like so many have said, we need to come together. The conversation needs to be had so that the appropriate action can in turn be taken. I know from a municipal standpoint, again, we need to look at our hiring. We need to look at our processes. We need to ensure that as we make policy decision, we are looking through the lens of being free of bias, making sure that the policies that we enact and that make it into ordinance and law, that these policies, in fact, are free from bias. And I think that by ensuring an inclusive conversation and a conversation that is in turn actionable, that we can start making those steps.
Thank you. And it's time for our last question. And Paula, we're going to go ahead and start with you. What distinguishes you from your opponent?
I would say my dedication to community service. I grew up in a community where leadership was often shown through service to your community. And I also worked with the Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership Foundation, which is a community group that strives to teach high school students how to work within their communities and serve their communities and develop the leadership skills to be successful in that arena. And I have always carried that with me, even now, clearly, our budget committee, our grants committee, the neighborhood coordinator for AFP. Until recently, I was on the board for the Kid Time Children's Museum, which is a wonderful project and program. So I have been very fortunate to be involved on a lot of different levels. And I would say that that service has taught me much about our community, both in Ashland and in the Valley. But it has also helped me to build relationships that are cross-functional. And by that, I mean city staff, sitting councilors, residents, board members, committee members, folks that are active within our community. And these working relationships are very important to this type of municipal work. I would also look to how I value the public forum and public input. I understand how to work within public meetings, how to be successful in actioning agendas within public meetings. And a big part of that is the public feedback. So I have come to truly, through my service to Ashland and to the broader community, learn the importance of that feedback.
Mary.
Thank you. I would say that one of the main things that distinguish me from my opponent is that I will advocate for our family farms and for that genetically engineered plant ordinance that has sat on the shelf for 6 years since he's been elected. I also have not accepted any corporate funds for my campaign, and I will not answer to anybody except for the people of my district when I go to vote on things. As an educator, I also have that insight, and a mathematician, I'll be able to look at that budget and figure some things out that other people might not see. I also, I have a history of getting things done, rolling up my sleeves and getting it done. And I haven't seen that from my opponent. So those are some of the skills and the collaboration skills that I have that I want to take to Salem and represent the people. Thank you.
Dare I say that my opponent is part of the Old Boy Network? Is anybody? At this point, I mean, we've got people that consider themselves movers and shakers in this valley that all hang together, that have the same friends, that hang out in the same places, the same ideas, the same solutions. It just feels like we've got this machine that I feel like I'm up against to some extent, and we don't need a cookie cutter type reaction to every single all three going in the same direction and agreeing all the time. So I tend to think that what I'm going to bring to this is an independent voice. I know that I'm a Dem, but at the same time, as a journalist, I think of myself as having a J behind my name, and that I'm willing to dig deep into issues, try to figure out all the different solutions, find the experts, plus talk to all the people on the ground. So that I feel like I can work at solutions, not just from the top down, but from the bottom up. I know that recently the county commissioners held a hearing or a work discussion about affordable housing, for example, and the people at the table were the real estate people, the bankers, and the developers. Jackson County Housing Authority, which is in charge of making sure housing is affordable, was in the audience, and there was no one there to represent the Latinx community, which was so devastated by the fires. So what I would bring is making sure that people are part of the conversation, and that they come first, and that they have just as much standing and are heard just as loudly as anybody else in the room.
Sarah.
Thank you. Unlike my opponents, I take the time to educate myself on the issues. People say I don't shoot from the hip. I research the issues and move the conversation to what matters. My two main opponents, both older male Republicans, have reputations for a lack of transparency and an antagonistic relationship with many government employees. I have never experienced a recall based on unfair or preferential behavior, and have never been banned from any group for divisive, offensive, or abusive language. So that definitely sets me apart. I am the only candidate out of us who has led with unimpeachable integrity, and I'm the only one of us who has much documented support from the communities that we need to hear from most here in Medford. I'm also the candidate of a generation who has experienced the baseline obstacles to success that the last several decades of policy changes have brought us. We face significant barriers in my generation to affording a good education without going into debt, finding opportunities to train for great careers, raising a family comfortably, and reaching our goal of owning a home. We will be raising our children often in multi-generational households. So our parents and grandparents need more resources, education, and options. I will advocate strongly for solutions that recognize all of those challenges with the goal of prosperity for Medford's individuals and families.
Great. Thank you. And Gina.
My opponent and I believe, are very different. We have different lived experiences. I am very involved and have been involved on several nonprofits here in Medford and in Ashland. I feel like I'm the type of person that's very boots on the ground and very hands-on. I believe in communication and keeping the door open. I look forward to having town halls where we can all get together and bring our thoughts, our vision, and opinions, because it's Gina for the people, and I'm here to be that voice and to listen to the people who feel like they haven't been heard. And I want to meet everyone where they are, no matter what their status is. What I have to bring to the table is my honesty, integrity, collaboration, and the ability to get things done. Mary mentioned rolling her sleeves up and getting things done. Well, that's me too. I'm a hands-on person, and I look forward to seeing all of us out there making good things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, that actually concludes the question portion of our event. I'm personally inspired by what I'm hearing, and in this uncertain political climate nationally, it brings me comfort to know we could have leadership like yours carrying progressive values into the reaches of our local elected positions. In a minute, we're going to hear from our candidates for closing remarks. But before we do, I just want to take a quick minute to refer you to a link in your chat box. I believe our moderator here is going to go ahead and post that for you. We've allotted 1 minute for you all to be able to please give POW some feedback on this event so that it can help us be able to inform this type of process for you guys as voters, and then also for our candidates. So we're going to go ahead and give you a moment for that, and then we're going to come back and we're going to hear from our candidates for their closing remarks. Okay. All right. So we are back. Hopefully that gave you all enough time. It was a pretty quick little survey. We tried to keep our focus here on the candidates. But we are ready for closing remarks, and we're going to go ahead and go in the same order we did for our introductions. So Mary, would you go ahead and start us off?
Yes, thank you. So first thing that I want to say is thank you for having this forum. It is an honor to be here and endorsed by Progressive Oregon Women, and to be among this fantastic list of candidates that I went through Emerge program with. It's so good to see you guys. Now I guess I get to just say some of the things I didn't say. I'm really proud of the endorsements that I was able to get. And one of the endorsements was from the Oregon League of Conservation Voters. And they rate other candidates, not candidates, they rate people in office. And my opponent got a score of 10%. And I'm endorsed by the Oregon League of Conservation Voters. So that's something I forgot to mention on what distinguishes me from my opponent. Also, this is my first time running for elected office, and it has been a tremendous learning experience for me. And I'm excited about November 3rd results. I'm absolutely in this to win it. And I would be honored to get your vote. And you can find more information about me at electmary2020.com. I also have a Facebook page, Instagram, and Twitter, and hashtag electmary2020 is how you can find me the best. So thank you again for this forum. And to my fellow Emerge graduates, let's get them. Let's get them.
Hey, Terrie?
Yeah, I remember the first day or two when we were all together in that training and how nervous we were, right? I mean, we could barely, put two sentences together, and we couldn't quite understand why we're here, how hard is it going to be to run, how we're going to pull ourselves together, how we're going to put a campaign together. It all seems so huge. And then to think that now 5 of us are now running for office is so awesome. And I'm so proud of every single one of you out there. I know how hard it is now to campaign. As I was into this for about 2 or 3 weeks, and I had Jimmy McLeod Skinner call me, and the first thing she said was, "Now you know what it feels like." And I'll just say, yeah, that's right. I mean, it's hard to put yourself out there, but it's so important. I encourage anybody out there listening to this, put yourself out there. We all have to take a step to make a difference, right? We can't wait for everybody else to make it for us. So even if it's a small step, school board, or volunteer to be on a committee for Jackson County, right? Find something you're passionate about, step up there, make the step, and do something great for where you live. And you're gonna find yourself getting more confidence, and you're gonna find yourself feeling like you're really good at the end of the day, that you did something today to make the world better, right? So that's part of it. And the second thing I want to say is, please, everyone, vote all the way down the ballot. We know there's a lot of attention being given to the top of the ballot right now, and we all, I don't know about you, but I'm gonna blue all the way down that ballot. And I want everybody to win, and I want everybody to be successful. But it's really important to encourage all your friends, please go all the way down and vote all the way down the ballot so every one of you get elected. I'm really proud to be here, and I'm proud of all of you.
Thank you, Terrie. It's Sarah Spansail.
Thank you. So first of all, just thank you again for this forum, and I'm really proud to have been supported by POW, the Medford Firefighters Central Labor Chapter, as well as many members of Medford's healthcare, education, and faith organization, as well as sitting city councilors. As a proven leader in the community, I think I'm the right choice for this race. My ability to listen to and communicate with everyone in Medford, and my commitment to ensuring all of these voices are heard, will guarantee that our city continues to thrive, not just for those who are already successful, but for our most vulnerable as well. So having already received the support of so many union leaders and community members, I'm ready to amplify their voices and yours. I have the experience and skills needed to work with everyone and help determine this direction our city needs to go. Medford needs more representation, as I said a little bit earlier, from people like me on the council who understand the challenges that working families are facing in these unprecedented times. And I am that candidate who truly understands those obstacles to success. With that being said, I bring this knowledge to the table and will support and enact solutions that recognize these challenges as only I can in this race. And you can find out more about me at votespansail.com. I have Facebook with Vote Spansail as the handle, and we're also on Twitter. So definitely check me out. Feel free to reach out if you have any other questions. I always answer. So give me a call. Thank you.
Gina.
Well, thank you again, POW, for creating this space. I love it. I'm excited to see all of my emerged sisters. It's so good to see everyone, and I'm just grateful for that. Something that I do remember when we all graduated last November and we walked out and we were all just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and we're going to go for it. Well, here we are. Here we are. And I'm so grateful to be amongst this number, and I'm grateful that I'm here. I am the third generation removed from slavery, and my great-grandmother brought my family here from Texas to the West Coast, and we were part of the great Negro migration. So for me to be here today, I am proud of me, and I know that wherever my great-grandmother is, she's proud of me too. And as I boast of my pride and how joyful I am, I just want to say that I look forward to being on Ashland City Council and what I have to bring with my lived experiences and my experiences being a leader here in Ashland. And I am up for the challenge because now is the opportunity and the time for us to reimagine out Ashland and move forward and rejuvenate and bring back that robust economy that we've had and make it even better. And I look forward to working with our neighboring cities, because one thing that I know that this pandemic has taught us in the Alameda fires is that we are the Rogue Valley, one valley. I look forward to the unity. I heard a lot of people say community. Well, in that big word community is that little word unity. And I look forward to the unification of our Rogue Valley as we move forward. And if you want to know more about me, please go to Gina for the People website, Facebook, social media is there. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Let's go, girls.
Thank you, Gina. Paula.
First, I want to definitely thank Progressive Oregon Women for setting up this forum so that we could discuss these important issues and what they mean for our communities. And I also want to thank all these incredible women who are also running. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today with you all. So thank you for your commitment to this process. Thank you for taking these steps forward and blazing the trail. I have so much admiration and respect for you all. I am committed to Ashland. I am committed to this race, and in working in partnership, not only within our community, but across the Rogue Valley. I can think of no better place to raise my family. I am a mom of a little 6-year-old, and I am the daughter of 2 retired educators who live on a fixed income. So I'm in between. I'm that in-between bridge generation. I see what our youth need, and I see what our retirees need. And it is my hope to serve not just one group, but all Ashland residents, and work together on the problems and the issues that we have outlined here today to drive us towards a successful future. So thank you to all those who took the time to come out and listen on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. And thank you to all who coordinated this excellent opportunity and space for this conversation. Thank you.
Well, we would like to thank you as candidates for being here with us today. And speaking on behalf of POW, we couldn't be more proud of our pioneering group of candidates to step forward. We know it takes a lot of hard work to run for office, and a lot of the positions are non-paid volunteer positions, which most folks when we're voting don't always think about. So we know that you're stepping forward into leadership and making a commitment to service to our community. And like I said, we just couldn't be more proud. I would like to take a moment to also remind folks that it has never been more important than it is right now to vote. And please vote early, right? You can vote by mail. You can use drop boxes that'll open tomorrow. You can drive it to the elections office in Medford if you're concerned about the post. But no matter what we do, we definitely need to get our vote out, and we definitely need to make sure that we encourage our family and friends to vote. You've seen on the right-hand side, hopefully in your chat group, the links for each of these amazing women. If you are inspired by one of them and they're going to be on your ballot, please take a minute to copy this link, put it into an email, send it out to your friends, put it in a text, click on the link, make a donation to these candidates. We are at the point now where traditionally 70% of the ballots come in the last week. That might be different this year, we hope, but nonetheless, these women are going to need to be able to share their message with as many people as possible. So the donations now are really helpful. It's not too late. So with that said, thank you. And we hope you all have an amazing Sunday, and we will see you guys November 3rd, hopefully on the top of those ballots.